Welcome to Geek Philosophy, where we love geeky wisdom. If you're new to the channel, my name's Brian, and today we're examining the similarities between tabletop role-playing games like Dungeons & Dragons and professional wrestling. Now, believe it or not, both of these are actually fundamentally about storytelling. In pro wrestling, the wrestlers are using their matches and the promos in between those matches to tell a story. And in D&D, the Dungeon Master works with the players to create a collaborative story during the game. So that begs the question, what you gonna do, brother, when D&D and the WWE run wild on you? Let's talk about some of the obvious crossover that's already there. Some of you may already know this, but there are pro wrestlers that are also avid tabletop role-playing gamers. For example, Xavier Woods, also known as Austin Creed, is a famous WWE superstar, and he's well known in the tabletop role-playing game community as well. He actually plays in the Acquisitions Incorporated D&D live shows. And Paul the Big Show White, he's involved in D&D as well. He has been in some celebrity games, and he's also a regular in Joe Manganiello's private game with people like Vince Vaughn and Tom Morello and a bunch of other people that aren't playing for TV. They just like getting together and playing the game with their friends. There's even Freddie Prinze Jr., who you may not think about wrestling, because I usually think of him as the great Jedi Kanan Jarrus in Star Wars Rebels, but he has ties to both role-playing games and wrestling. He helped create and played in a role-playing game series set in the DC universe, and he also worked as a writer for the WWE. And he also hosts his own wrestling podcast, Wrestling with Freddie. Now that last bit may throw some of you. Why would the WWE hire writers like Freddie Prinze Jr.? Well, let's explore the evolution of storytelling in professional wrestling. Historically, the wrestling business did not always hire outside writers. In fact, most were created by the insiders in the industry, the bookers and the experienced wrestlers who understood the nuances of both in-ring action and the engagement with the audience, how to sell those tickets. Now, over time, as wrestling evolved into a global entertainment phenomenon, they needed more intricate and diverse narratives. They involved a bunch of professional writers. Now, writers in wrestling, like Freddie Prinze Jr., bring fresh perspectives into the storytelling process, and they script out promos and they help people develop characters. But it's important to recognize that storytelling in wrestling is a collaborative effort. The bookers lay out the broader strokes of the narrative, and the wrestlers combine their own understanding of their character and timing, and the agents or producers actually assist in fine-tuning all of the in-ring storytelling. But ultimately, the primary responsibility of bringing all these stories to life falls on the wrestlers themselves in the ring. They translate all of the scripted narratives and planned sequences into physical performances, much like actors do in a live play, but also very different. They have to be able to, think on their feet and adapt to the audience's reactions to what's happening and adapt based on their physicality. The best wrestlers are masters of storytelling when they are in the ring, and even outside of the ring when they're on the mic giving a promo. And I think the collaborative and dynamic storytelling method of wrestling is similar to how Dungeon Masters and players weave a narrative at the table. The Dungeon Master might outline the adventure, and the players may buy into the general premise of what's going on, but it's their actions that truly shape the story, and it creates a unique and engaging experience for everybody at the table. Let's examine how the ongoing narrative structure in pro wrestling might influence our approach to crafting tabletop role-playing game stories. For example, think about how classic rivalries and long-term storylines are shown in professional wrestling, and they lead to this epic build-up to a WrestleMania-type main event. How could we mirror that in our campaigns? Well, pro wrestling is a masterclass in this long-term storytelling. Beyond the physical matches, the wrestling narratives are built over time. They lead to these major events. The storyline between the main babyface, or hero, and the heel, or villain, is a complex weaving of in-ring confrontations and out-of-ring conflicts and promos and allies and factions and all kinds of stuff. And they build anticipation and emotional investment into a climactic face-off, where you have this major pay-per-view event for them designed to sell tickets and pay-per-view buys and make money. Now, the journey to the main event in wrestling mirrors the progression towards a climactic encounter or resolution in a D&D campaign. Along the way, side quests, character backstories, and NPC interactions all contribute to the overarching narrative. But let's think about how we can structure D&D campaigns and combat encounters with the excitement of a pro wrestling match, while ensuring the players still have the freedom to shape their own story. Crafting a campaign similar to a wrestling pay-per-view event build-up is about setting the stage, not dictating the actions that are going to take place. The key is to present opportunities that align with the narrative, but leave the choices and the actions up to the players and the dice. Early in the campaign, you can introduce conflicts, NPCs, and plot hooks that suggest potential storylines, much like the start of wrestling feuds, and allow the players to explore these elements and make their own decisions on how they're gonna, make this come to fruition. Then, mid-campaign, as things escalate, you can present players with scenarios that have multiple potential outcomes. And whether they choose to confront an enemy head-on, or seek to ally with other people, or pursue a different path altogether, they should have tangible effects on the world, and that really echoes what we see in pro wrestling. Some things change at a drop of a hat depending on what happens in the ring on a given night. Then later in the campaign, guide things toward the finale by responding to the player's actions and their choices. If they've made an enemy out of a powerful NPC, perhaps that character becomes a central figure in the final showdown. If they've made some strong alliances along the way, these allies could play a really important role in the resolution of the campaign. So that means the final climax of the campaign could be a response to the journey that the players have taken, just like the final pay-per-view is the response to the journey that those wrestlers have taken along the way. And while you set the stage for a grand finale, be open to the player's approach and let their actions and their strategies determine the ultimate outcome of the campaign. Now, even if you don't want to go long-term, whole campaign, and borrow elements from pro wrestling there are still strategies in a single match that you can pull from. There's actually a basic wrestling match structure. It's not true for every match, but it's kind of commonplace throughout the whole industry. So let's talk about the shine, heat, comeback, and finish. In wrestling, the shine phase is when the hero of the match, or the babyface, showcases their prowess. They're showing how great they are, and they're winning over the favor of the crowd. But the heat phase is when the villain or the heel gains the upper hand and starts putting the hero in jeopardy. And this is really important because you need to feel the stakes for the match to mean something. But that sets the stage for the comeback phase. And this is where the hero rallies against all the odds and overcomes the challenges. Then you've got the finish. This is the climax of the match, but it's often filled with suspense and surprises, and sometimes even false finishes. You think it's over, and it's not really. And that's the 1, 2, kick out. And you can do that at your table too. So let's adapt for our gaming session. We can think of things like this. The shine phase of combat provides opportunities for the characters to showcase their strength, but be prepared for players to take unexpected approaches or use their abilities in unexpected ways. Then in the heat phase of combat, we can introduce additional challenges to test the players. Maybe they're moral quandaries, you've got to save someone or not. Maybe they're environmental hazards that come into play. Maybe there's other people that show up that weren't expected, and there's some type of problem in addition to just the fight that they have to solve. In the comeback phase, this is how the players are going to react to those challenges and adapt the encounter to their responses. So as a GM, you should encourage moments where players can turn the tide, but let these moments arise organically from their own actions and decisions. And then in the finish, this is where we have some type of dramatic conclusion, but be flexible. The players might devise some type of unexpected strategy, they often do, and you have to roll with that. But it could also lead to the next match. Maybe there's other information that's gained. You're keeping the overall story going if you wanted to go with the overall long-form narrative structure. Well, I hope you enjoyed this little bit of geek philosophy about borrowing some storytelling strategies from pro wrestling to help enhance our D&D or other tabletop role-playing games. As always, this is just one option of many, but if you found this video useful, please don't forget to like and subscribe and turn on the notifications so you don't miss out on any of our content. I'd like to leave you with a little bit of geek philosophy from WWE Superstar Xavier Woods. Not to wax philosophical, but a lot of things in D&D are very much like straight up metaphors for life. Cheers.